Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Wednesday, the 12th of January. I'm Derek Clark. I'm joined by Joshua Barrie. Joshua, how are we doing?
Wonderful to be with you as always, Derek. How are you doing? I'm more enthusiastic than that sounded, but all good at my end, mate. Enjoyed a little bit of Joe Aribo last night on the BBC. I'm sure you did as well.
Yeah.
So looking forward to another conversation about Rangers as always.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk a little bit about Joe Aribo shortly. So much to talk about, folks. Before we do, remember, if you haven't already done so, if you're watching us on YouTube, just hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss a video when we go live. And we've also got a fantastic offer on just now, as you can see in the little ticker below us, where you can subscribe to the Rangers Review for free for the first month and support top quality journalism covering the club you love. Just head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe. After that, it's just £2.99 a month, so cracking value. Okay, Joshua, the big talking point I think yesterday was the announcement from the First Minister that fans will now be allowed back into football grounds fully, no restrictions in place as of Monday, following a 3-week period. Now, first of all, it's great to see that the supporters will be able to get back to the football. I think the decision to impose the restrictions was bizarre, to say the least. It didn't follow scientific advice, the £500 cap, which just seemed a bit bonkers. What do you make of the news yesterday? And are you pleased that we'll get fans back in the grounds again?
Surprised that there's going to be a nighttime Old Firm game, Derek.
Yes.
To be honest, that was my biggest. For me, when it was rearranged for that time, I thought that was kind of the definitive that fans wouldn't be back in their whole numbers at that stage. So I was, hugely surprised. I think it'll be a fantastic occasion, having one at night, and obviously the same goes for the away trip to Pittodrie. Like you said in your well-worded piece, I think that it's the title was something along the lines of why were they gone in the first place, and the whole. Although I guess there's some vindication for clubs who wanted to move the break forward, there's also, I guess, what justifies fact that crowds weren't allowed on the 26th. Some clubs, Dave Cormack, the Aberdeen chairman, was very, very vocal about the loss of revenue over. I think on the 26th as well, and with cases so high as they are just now. So glad that this situation is behind us. At the time, I must admit, Derek, that I thought this is going to be the case for a good couple of months. We've both been to football games behind closed doors, obviously with our line of work throughout, and it's not very fun. There's a novelty effect of hearing the manager and whatnot for about 20 minutes, and then you kind of realise this is not the complete package. I remember the Malmo game, as I've spoken about in the summer, the first full capacity stadium, and what a memorable occasion that was for the first half. So great that it's not going to drag on, but frustrating that it happened in the first instance. And I guess, as you say, why draw? It's hard to know why the line was drawn at a particular point in time, but maybe there isn't a specific answer for that.
Yeah, there's a piece on our website, folks. Go check out my tuppence worth on the decision yesterday. Although it is welcome news, I think questions have to be asked as to why restrictions were brought in the first place, especially when you look down south and there's packed houses. We've seen that the World Darts Championships packed out Alexandra Palace and what have you. Just that didn't make any sense whatsoever. But Rangers will be heading up to Pittodrie on Tuesday with the travelling supporters heading up there in full voice, no doubt. And the first match at Ibrox, of course, when supporters will be back in the ground, will be that Friday night game against Stirling Albion in the Scottish Cup. There is a couple of caveats as well, Joshua, with regards to fans having to show had a booster vaccine and for their vaccine passport to be fully updated. Supporters can also show a record of a negative COVID-19 result from a test taken within 24 hours of the match. If supporters are not using the COVID vaccine app, then they must produce printouts or a PDF to show proof of vaccination. So certainly it's something for supporters to think about and try and get the documentation in order before coming along to the game?
Yeah, one of these things, isn't it? I must say I've not had to show that yet to a steward, but yeah, do you know what, Derek? It would just be so good to have that, even the outside the ground, to have that kind of atmosphere before games, and this is part and parcel of going to the football at the moment, I guess. So yeah, hopefully it does. Hopefully we don't see crowds waiting outside for long periods of times, especially at away games, and it's all done very swiftly. But we'll hold our breath. And I must also note, Derek, that it is Alan Brown's 50th birthday tomorrow. So very happy 50th to Alan in the comments.
Yeah, happy birthday, Alan. Many happy returns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been checked. The last 2 games I've been at Ellen Road, and last night at Bolton for vaccine passports. So it's certainly something that they're doing down here, and of course they'll be doing in Scotland as well. Let's talk about other things hitting the news, Joshua, because Dave Voss is giving an interview to Rangers TV. First time we've heard from him since joining and teaming up with Giovanni van Bronckhorst. What's the main takeouts from that interview? What's the big talking points?
Big fan of Dave. We spoke a lot after Michael Beale left, who I was also a big fan of, that it was important the Rangers replaced the development focus, the high standard of training within the squad, and how that superseded the need for someone who knew the league, whatever that means. And I think Dave Voss certainly fills that void. Obviously, is a fantastic coaching pedigree, having coached at Ajax for I think he said 13 years in this interview. And by coming into the club, Derek, he retains that development focus, standard in training that Beale vacated when he followed Gerrard down to Villa. So in terms of the interview itself, it's a nice little video package, but it's really an introduction from Voss. He speaks about the similarities between Ajax and Rangers, understanding the pressure to win and the pressure to win every week, understanding that for the opposition, every game that they play against Rangers is he calls it the game of the season. So I think he's quickly acclimatized to his environment if he understands that already. And certainly coming in with such a good reputation, I know everyone was very excited when he came in the first instance. I'm sure that he'll be able to do what Beale did with players, which is turn players like Kamara from out in the cold at Dundee, but with undeniable talent, into the play areas today. Turn players like Joe Aribo, who, when he arrived, had all the skills and credentials, but we're really now only seeing the consistent domination of games. And I'm sure Voss will fill that void and be able to do that with a number of other players as well. So yeah, do check it out on the Rangers TV site. Lots and lots of great content on there as well, Derek. I must say the video package was very good. So good to hear from him, and a nice little introduction into his coaching journey and how excited he is to be at Rangers.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Go check it out, folks. Let's talk transfers now, Joshua, because a number of comments coming in. Jamie Waddle says we've got to get rid of Dead Wood, Brandon Barker, Jake Hasty, and eating off the wage bill. Sean Gray gets in touch as well. Says John Sousa ready to reject interest from down south and join Rangers. This was news yesterday. Apparently, Rangers are on a short list of 3, alongside 2 English Championship clubs. John Sousa has as his preferred choices for his next destination after Tynecastle. Of course, his contract is up at the end of the season. He's making a decision this week, apparently. How do you see that one going, Joshua? We've talked at length about John Sousa. I think we're all in agreement. If he was to be added to the squad, it would be a good move. Yeah,
it would be a good move. I guess he's got the caveat down south of going to the Premiership as well. So I mean, I don't know what will be the dictating factor in his decision, but certainly, as you say, Derek, Sousa for me would be a no-brainer because of his first half of the season, because of his attributes on the ball. But who knows? Maybe he will be tempted down south. It's a big lure going to the Premiership, but also it's a big financial lure, I'd imagine as well. So we shall see. I'm also seeing comments, and I've seen this morning, reports that Itten might be heading back from Germany. Now, I don't know the legitimacy of such such claims, Derek. But that would be an interesting one if he did indeed come back. I know his loan spell probably hasn't been as fruitful as he or the club would have hoped, and maybe indeed he would be a little bit better suited to the football that Giovanni Van Bronckhorst plays as opposed to that of Gerrard. I mean, do you, within that same conversation, I still don't think that Cedric Itten will be a long-term Rangers starter. What do you think?
Yeah, we'll try and find out if this is true or not, Gary. I'm not too sure in that case. Whether he can fit in Van Bronckhorst's system, we don't know. I would like to see it give a go, to be honest. I think he deserves perhaps a clean slate to show what he can do up front for Rangers, and what is a new way of playing. He might thrive on the two wingers with getting crosses into the box. So I'd be all for a tryout, perhaps. I very much doubt he'll be back and playing for Stirling Albion, but that would have been a perfect opportunity to see if it would work.
It might give more depth. I guess as well, Derek, you've got to consider that, Kemar Roofe has had more injuries this season, which leaves the only and Fashion Sakala seems to be regarded. He's only played off the flanks under Van Bronckhorst, and that the kind of focal point that Van Bronckhorst likes to use, and we've seen him use a lot of Feyenoord. I don't know if Sakala fits into that mould, so it may be hypothetically, if Morelos, who, by the way, I don't know if you've seen his Instagram story yesterday, but looked incredibly lean, which I think everyone was very happy to see. But if he was to, pick up a small injury, and Roofe feasibly could be out as well at the same time, that's not improbable, and that's actually, it's quite likely. You're left with Defoe as your really only central striker, although I'm sure Sakala could go in and cover. So maybe that's some of the thinking of it, and also maybe it would suit the club if Itten indeed isn't having the best time over there. He could come back and add a bit of quality to the squad, a bit of depth, and we always talk about those goals he scored against Motherwell and whatnot, but he did contribute at times when he needed to last season, and maybe he could do again in a busy second half of the campaign.
Yeah, good friend Baz Bowski's posted this morning. I'll sit and take notes, and I'll shamelessly pass this information off.
Wouldn't do that today, Baz. Wouldn't do that today.
He's expecting expert analysis on the Battle Fever podcast that he appears on, Baz. So great to have your company as ever. Another interesting bit of information that's been sort of doing the rounds in the last few days, Joshua. It's on the Rangers Review site as well. A little snippet today about John Lundstrom and his future. Apparently Middlesbrough are keen on taking him away from Ibrox. Of course, they're managed now by Chris Wilder, who had him at Sheffield United. He did ever so well under him. It's not quite worked for John Lundstrom. Johnny McFarlane had a piece out in the last couple of days. It's on paper, it should have worked, but as yet, it hasn't. And since Giovanni Van Bronckhorst has taken over, he's not really had the opportunity. Well, I say the opportunity. He has had games, Leon, and there was a game he got taken off at half-time. Was it Dundee United? Yeah, it just hasn't worked, has it?
It's a frustrating one, I imagine, for Lundstrom, Derek, and as Johnny, put in his piece, under Gerrard, it just looked as though he was getting there, and he'd overcome a difficult situation in the first instance where when he was trudging off the park, having been sent off against Alishkert, having also been responsible for the goal, or partly responsible for the goal at Tannadice in the defeat to Dundee United. You're thinking it's hard for you to come back from this, but he did, and he did so really well with the man of the match performances. I know he still divides opinion. And I think he might just, as Johnny said in his piece, a little bit of a victim of doomed by the kind of fate that surrounds him, the environment that surrounds him in terms of a managerial change. I'm sure if Steven Gerrard had stayed, that John Lundstrom would still be playing in that role. Glenn Kamara, as it happens, has come back into that position. But yeah, as Thomas says, he did have 4 man of the matches.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I mean, I what's that saying? I would much rather have Kamara there personally. Sorry, I can't read and speak at the same time. I think what you've seen in that first half against Dundee United, what Lundstrom isn't as good at compared to Kamara, when you've got 2 strikers that are blocking off the passes into the middle of the pitch, and Lundstrom struggled to work his way around that. And that's why, Kamara was moved back to the base of midfield because of that, in my mind, Derek. So then the conversation goes, well, where does he play? Because if you're going to go to Tynecastle and you're still only going to play one holding midfielder, that suggests that aside from an away trip to Lyon, for example, which, don't come very often, a few times a season, you're not going to require two of those sitters. You've also got Stephen Davis there. You've got Ryan Jack. We don't know when he'll be back, what will happen, but that's a busy area of the pitch. So, and Lundstrom was obviously a big earner at the club. And as Johnny puts in the piece, he valued it within the club at £10 million player they'd signed for free in the summer. So I'm sure Ross Wilson will be working away in the background. I agree with Thomas in terms of he had some excellent performances, and it's important to not forget those. There might be a conclusion that the club could work. You'll also remember Derek, he came on at centre half at one point. The arrival of James Sands, though, and the type of player that he is, suggests to me that puts Lundstrom further down the pecking order in that number 6 position. So it'd be interesting to see what the resolution is on that one.
Yeah, certainly watch this space with regards to that. Okay, let's finish up with looking at Joe Aribo's performance yesterday. Joshua, of course, he's at the African Cup of Nations with Nigeria.
Yeah.
And by all accounts, a terrific display against Egypt as he won by 1-0. Kelechi Iheanacho with the only goal of the game to get the Super Eagles off to a flyer, and Joe Aribo with the assist. If you have a look on Twitter, you can see the plaudits he's getting for his performance. Just taking on his impressive displays for Rangers into the international stage, Joshua.
Yeah, and a friend of the show and contributor to the website, Patrick Caskey, put out a tweet yesterday saying, I fear we might not see Joe Aribo at Ibrox again, which I completely rebuked because I don't want to believe it. But in saying that, he's, when Aribo goes onto a world stage, people will see just how good he is, and not that it's a surprise to any Rangers fan. But I got bits of the game and I watched a little bit back of it this morning, and it was nice to get a Joe Aribo fix after a few weeks off it. So these things can only, although it's a little bit of a cliche in the past, obviously that World Cups and European Championships and AFCON falls into that category as well. They tend to boost the player's value because more people see it. There's more hype around it. I don't know how legitimate that is in the modern market, but certainly better not leave for any less than 20 million. I think given the Patterson fee, you're looking at much more than that. We wrote at the time on the site that Rangers have set the benchmark for what their talent is worth, and Joe Aribo could and will at one point inevitably go down and be a really good player in the English Premiership. And the progression this year for me, Derek, to be able to dominate games and be able to really use his strength. Thinking of it was a game against Bromby where a previous manager Gerrard was very happy with the aggression he'd shown, and that seemed to be a theme this season that was coming out more and more of his game. And now he has that to his talent, his ability with the ball, his Velcro touch. He's become an even better player. So, but in response to Patrick, I would love to see Joe go back at Ibrox. We inevitably will for a big second half of the season, and then who knows? It might be hard to keep hold of him in the summer, but I'm sure if that comes off the back of a very good second half of the season, then that will be more understandable.
Yeah, I think there's a general feeling of just enjoying him while he's at Ibrox. I think he is destined for bigger things. There's no doubt about it. He will tear that English Premier League up when he goes down there, and I think it's only a matter of time. But yeah, fantastic performance from Joe Aribo yesterday, and long may that continue. Okay, folks, that'll do us there. Thanks again to everyone getting in touch. It's very much appreciated. If you head over to the Rangers Review site this morning, Joshua, you've got a piece on about the sporting director model.
I do, yeah, trying to tell it through the lens of looking at a couple of recent events. We look at the player trading model that's kicked in with Nathan Patterson, and how successful that's been, and how Rangers have talked the talk in that regard for a while, and then have turned up with the goods in terms of a £16 million transfer for a player that with a lot of potential had only played 2 games this season. And then also looking at the work behind getting Giovanni Van Bronckhorst in. At the time, Stuart Robertson spoke about a lot of the work being done prior. Ross Wilson spoke about how he'd for a number of time been tracking candidates. So it's looking at the processes that go on behind the club, the long-term vision being set by a long-term presence, which is Ross Wilson in modern football. Obviously, the managerial cycle seems to be 4 to 5 years, and that long-term presence is now set by that sporting director at the top of the club, and how therefore that impacts when a new manager comes in. The phrase I've used is it needs recalibrated the squad, but not rebuilt. You know, the certain depth is required at the number 8 position because the midfield responsibility have changed, but the whole spine of the team doesn't need ripped up. So yeah, free for a month. If you've ever thought about joining us, but you've been put off for whatever reason, try it out. If you don't like it, you don't need to pay for it because it's free. But you can certainly go and try it out. So yeah, I would urge everyone to go and do that as you do, Derek.
Yeah, absolutely. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe. A good morning to Aldo, who gets in touch. He's late this morning. He's starting his college induction.
Good luck, Aldo. Good luck.
Yeah, absolutely. But you can catch up with the show later on, Aldo. Good to have your company as ever. Okay, folks, that'll do us there. Thanks very much for your company. And remember, we'll be back again tomorrow on Thursday. But until then, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.